Hello, this is Victoria James again. Um, I was thinking why I make my videos. Why do I need it? Maybe nobody cares, but maybe somebody does, doesn't matter. I was just thinking this year a lot about my parents because a lot of things in my parents' relationships were very beautiful, but a lot of things were sad. And I think when you really love a person and people love each other, it always brings a lot of sadness, but it also brings a lot of feelings that you will never find anywhere else. And I was thinking why. I mean, a lot of people talk about love. Is it important to love the one that you're married to? Is it important to love a person or to love each other when you have kids? I was thinking a lot about it this year. It's a difficult question because I know some people get married just because it's time to get married, and parents just found somebody for you, and you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't argue, maybe that's what I need, it's gonna work. Sometimes people at some point find understanding, but I think if there was no love to begin with, I don't think it will ever be there. I believe that love is not something that's really developing. I think it just it's either there from the very start or no. That's just my feeling. And I wanted to tell a story of my parents. I love my mom very much. We live together now, and soon we're probably not gonna live together because of some changes. But this year I reevaluated a lot in my relationships with my mom. I guess especially when you get older, and I'm already 31, it's not like I feel old or anything. I actually feel much younger. I told a lot of people I feel more like I'm 18. But yes, I'm 31. And I was thinking why I always had, like, even when my life was really hard and I had situations when any other person would probably just not live anymore, I did have a lot of very hard times in my life and in school. And when I immigrated first time and after I immigrated second time, I had two immigrations in my life. And of course, changes when you lose friends and all of these things. So I did have really, really good, solid amount of hard time in my life. I know what pain is. I know there are days when you really need something to rely on in your life. And I was thinking, what is that thing that always kept me afloat? What always helped me to stay a happy person or come back to happiness from my hell, what I felt inside? Because I'm very emotional and my emotions are very deep. I do have situations when I feel like, oh my God, this is the end. But it's never the end for me because there is one thing, just one, that always helped me. This is my parents' love, and I believe that love is something that never dies. If you love a person and person loves you, it creates something between you that nothing can kill. Not social judgment, not resistance, not even resistance of the one you love or your resistance to surrender and say, yes, I love this person. Anyway, some bond is created between you. And I feel that's such a strong energy that I can't even imagine what can be stronger than this energy of love. And I just understood that one thing that truly helped me in my life, just simple understanding that my parents truly loved each other. they made mistakes, and there was a moment when they divorced, and there was a moment when there was betrayal and misunderstandings and zero communication, and after a little more communication, they never really became friends after that, because I feel like they still loved each other. They felt like they made a mistake. I knew that. My mom felt like they have to be together, and my father also felt like he has to be with my mom. But sometimes there is a moment when you love a person and you feel like there is so much work to come back to that love again and be together again, that you just like really scared to build it all over again, because it's hard to bring a lot of apologies. It's hard to say that yes, I was a piece of shit, that I betrayed you and you were so difficult, and sometimes you weren't a woman of my dream, and sometimes you weren't a man of my dream. But the most important, I know that they always loved each other, that my father always loved my mom since they met each other, and my mom always loved my dad. And I just feel that this is the most important thing in my life, and I feel this love. Even though my father died when he was 46, that was 15 years ago, sometimes I feel like I see my parents together, or I remember them together, or when I have hard days, this love is somewhere within me. I feel it so strongly. And why I wanted to share this, just because I don't want somebody to make a mistake and just to marry and have kids with somebody you don't really love just because it's time or whatever. Or maybe that's what you want to do, that's fine. I get it, life is life, but I'm a very idealistic person. I can only imagine being with a person I truly love and the person that loves me. And I can only imagine if I will ever have kids, who knows, but I want my kids to have the same strong feeling of love that I had. And even if I wouldn't be a perfect mother, or my family wouldn't be perfect, or my husband wouldn't be perfect at some point, regardless, if your kids are born in love, that's a real wall. It's a wall that you build for your kids and for your family, and they always gonna feel that. They always gonna feel this love. They always gonna remember that they were born because two people met each other and they loved each other. And I guess the older I get, the more I become a person that wants to be absolutely sincere. And it's hard to predict in this life if you'll be a happy person or no, in things that you do, because things happen and the world is not perfect. But I just really wish everybody had this gift that I have, and everybody could say, I know my parents loved each other. I know they got together and there was a reason for that, and that reason was love and nothing else. Not because they were cool, or they had a lot of things, or they had a nice house, or they had a nice car, or they had whatever. Because my parents honestly didn't have any of that. Well, my father did, because he was kind of from a cool family back then when they lived in Soviet Union. His grandfather was from economy department. His mom was a scientist. They obviously had a lot of apartments, cars, and whatever. But it's not the most important. I know that they loved each other, and even if they didn't have all of that stuff, they still would love each other, and they would still find a way to be together. And their love story was kind of difficult and kind of funny at the same time. My father met my mom when she was probably 19 or 18, maybe 20, I'm not exactly sure. He was in school in Ukraine back then. He wanted to become a pilot, but he didn't have enough health and coordination, so he became an engineer. He used to build airplanes, kind of like a Soviet version of Boeing, parts and details for airplanes. So they were putting airplanes together, put this whole thing. Imagine. I guess it kind of expresses my father so much because he was a very dreamy, romantic person. I guess he maybe wanted to learn to fly, but he didn't learn to fly. He helped other people to fly. So more on a physical level, on economic level, let's put it this way. And my mom, when they met each other, my mom was married to my father's cousin, but they had some sort of short affair and it wasn't very serious, and they kind of got married as kids who wanted to try things. And my father came to visit his cousin, and when my mom saw him, and he was an engineer, but he was also a musician. He used to play bass guitar. He was in a band. They used to play music kind of similar to the Beatles, and they were kind of romantic kids born in 50s, kind of like American generation of baby boomers. So they had really good life, I guess. Economically, at least, they had much better life than my generation, I'm pretty sure. And they met each other. I'm not sure what my father felt. I never asked him about it. I guess I should have. But my mom told me that she understood right away that this is her person, and she knew that they're gonna have something. She felt like she knew that they either gonna have relationships or kids or family, but she knew. She just felt it right away. And I feel like men are usually much slower at that. I don't think my father was really understanding that, but they had some sort of spark between them or some energy. They liked each other. But my mom was married back then, and my father ran away back to Ukraine. My mom wasn't in Ukraine. She was in another part of Soviet Union. So my mom remembered him. Maybe he remembered her too. Maybe remembered and forgot. Who knows? And after my mom understood that my father's cousin is not the right person for her, and that all ended, he left to army, sent her a letter like, hello, Lena, blah, 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 blah. I've met another woman. She was like, yes, I'm so glad, because she stayed with his family waiting for him from army, but she already felt like she doesn't want to be in relationships, but she was a very decent girl. She's like, I'm waiting for my man from army. And she was happy, so she moved back to live with her grandfather. He needed care back then. He was really old. And after she met another man, he became a father of my older brother. I had an older brother, unfortunately. He died when he was 20, but it's another pain story, so I want to talk about it now. But after she divorced to that guy too when my older brother was 3 years old. And she used to be a best girlfriend of my father's sister. They used to communicate and everything. And when my mom was already divorced second time, my aunt, Larissa, my father's sister, she invited her to go to the bar or restaurant. She's like, oh, I'm single, you're single, let's go and find boyfriends. Oh, no, she actually had a boyfriend. My mom didn't have a boyfriend. And she's like, oh, okay, let's go to a restaurant and my boyfriend will pay for us. Everything is cool. My mom's like, oh, I don't have money. I'm kind of, I have a child. I'm really low on cash, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, don't worry about it. And her boyfriend turned out to be a really strange person. He came and they were eating and drinking, having fun, talking and everything. And after he ran away, he disappeared. And they were left in the restaurant with a bill. And my mom is like, I don't know what to do. I don't have money. You don't have money. What should we do? And my father's sister is like, I'm gonna go and smoke outside, and you just go kind of like you go to a restroom, and after go outside, and after we're just gonna run away. I mean, they wanted to come back and pay later, but they were kind of scared, so they decided to leave and after come back and pay when they have money. And this is what they did, and they were running, and my father's sister said, oh, let's go to my house. And they were running on heels, on really high heels, on shoes like this, and they were running away from a restaurant. So my mom is like, oh my god, this is so scary, we're criminals, oh my god. And they ran away. And my father's sister said, you know, my brother asked about you a lot, la la la, everything. And my mom was like, oh, he never called me, he never contacted me, like, what? Whatever. But she's like, oh, but he's at home now. And my father was such a romantic kid. He had long hair, nice business suits and corduroy suits, kind of like Beatles and everything. So he was very attractive and interesting, kind of like a local rock star. And my mom came and they kind of had a cold hello, like, hi, hi, hi. Kind of like people who knew they might have relationships, but my father kind of like got scared back then. And my mom stayed overnight, and in the morning they already woke up together somehow. So so they became a boyfriend and a girlfriend that night. So okay, that's the story. And after my dad came to see my mom, and she had a child, my older brother, and my dad was kind of like, oh, I don't really like kids that much, whatever. My mom was like, you know, if you don't like kids, I'm sorry, this is my baby. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for both of us. Just find somebody else. And after my mom left and she was doing something on the kitchen, she was thinking he will be gone. But when she came back, my father was sitting and feeding my older brother from a spoon, and they just like became friends right away. And so that's kind of how they started living together. And there was a lot of things happened. Difficult times, collapse of Soviet Union happened when I was 3 years old. It was hard to raise me. I wasn't a very easy child, and you know, I kind of was always very aristocratic, and I wasn't very helpful. I didn't like helping my parents, so my older brother was a real angel. He was always doing everything at home. He was helping parents, and I felt sometimes like they love each other more with my father than the way my father loved me. But I was never jealous. I loved my older brother so much, and at some point somehow they told me that my father is not his biological father, but I like, okay, whatever, we love each other, everything is cool, how does it matter? It was never a big deal for us. We knew we're kids from one family, that's the most important. But kind of to summarize this whole story, one thing that I wanted to say, just I know we all grow up, we think about families, kids, what's right, what's wrong, and it's a hard question, and we live in a very pragmatic society that dictates a lot. But think about this. One day, when you have your kids, they're gonna ask you, Mom, did you love our father? Do you love him? And they're gonna ask Dad, Dad, did you love our mom? or do you love our mom? I don't know what the situation will be at that time. I understand a lot of people divorce and whatever. We're all like living the time when nobody believes in like once and forever, even though that would be great. But who knows? Just kind of, I hope that when your kids ask you this question, you will be able to answer yes sincerely. And I understand what works for me. It's not necessarily what works for everybody, but I feel that it's very important to, for me, it's very important to say yes to my kids when they ask me this question. And it's important for me that my husband also answer yes. That's kind of what I wanted to say. So, wish you love, to be surrounded by good people, and just to meet the one you love and the one that loves you. This is very, very important. Have a good day. Bye.